Greetings! What is up, and a very warm welcome to the channel. The sun is shining and the magpie is casting. Coming to you guys right now in lockdown with a live 1 versus 1 game fresh from the top of the Company of Heroes 2 ladder. Featuring a spawning in the north, it's going to be the Vermax pieces of a series of Chinese characters who I guess I'm going to just be calling, I don't know, Vermax. And spawning in the south, playing as the United States forces, it's going to be Hero Chinese character CC, who I'm probably just going to call Hero. The map here is going to be Angerville. And as these two players move out to start the grisly business of warfare out on the map, I'm going to take a moment right here just to say thank you very much to Oliver for pinning or sending me a link to the patch notes on my last video. That's really useful. Had a look through there. It's been a while since I actually read any patch notes. I guess, but I had like quite a large gap from the game, and rather than just like read months worth of patch notes when I got back, I thought I'd just jump into casting and sort of see how the game felt and just try and, I don't know, like identify the changes just by sort of watching games. And having done that now for a few months, I thought it was time to actually have a look at the latest patch notes, and it was really interesting. So it's the, I think, yeah, is it the winter balance patch or whatever? I can't remember what they were calling it, but it was about a week ago, and there were some pretty big changes. Most exciting for me were some really big changes to UKF. We saw in the last game on the channel that the UKF now have the Assault Leading Officer, just as a dude you can build from your HQ. I didn't know that they also have a Medic Squad that you can now build from your HQ, and just a ton of other changes as well. So, UKF now hopefully a slightly more usable faction in the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they play moving forwards. Now, there were also some pretty massive changes to Vermac and their teching. So let's just have a look here if we can see. So the Vermac tech upgrades have increased in cost. So Battle Phase 2 costs 105 now. That is up. And Escalate to Battle Phase 3 costs 35. Those are both up. However, my understanding is now that the actual tech buildings have had their fuel cost removed. So the fuel cost of teching is now entirely in the battle phases, not so much the buildings, which makes it less punishing for Vermac players to build support armor core and then later on in the game go for a heavy panzer core. And also, heavy panzer core, I believe now, increases the capture rate of all Vermac infantry by 25%. That is an interesting and intriguing bonus. So that's going to help them out in the late game quite a lot. That's going to make it easier for them to retake ground and, you know, swipe victory points away from your opponent in the phase in the game when the victory points are normally the most important, the late game. It also, the Heavy Panzer Corps also appears to reduce the reinforce cost of pretty much all infantry squads by 2 manpower or 10%, depending on the squad. And that's pretty damn cool. I mean, because Vermac has always struggled for manpower in the late game. It's been their Achilles heel. And if you wipe their core infantry, which is quite easy to do because they're quite brittle 4-man squads generally, then that's a really good way of beating Vermac. So it's just something there to help their weaknesses, and I think that it's fair to say Vermac did need something like that, because, you know, they're a fine faction in the game, but they are somewhat in OKW's shadow in recent times. There have been some other interesting changes too, of course. OKW have had some changes. Oh, that's right, pretty much all heavy vehicles now come in at 12. Oh, I was about to look at the Pershing commander. We've got a Tiger commander. Yeah, so now the Tiger tank, the Pershing, the IS-2, they all come in at 12 command points, so some pretty big changes there. The Tiger tank has also had some pretty radical changes. I'm just sort of talking about them as they come into my mind here. This is not very organized, but we'll talk about those changes as and when they become relevant. How about that? So for now, it looks like we've got a commander pick here out of Hero. It's going to be the Urban Assault Company. So this is not one that I have cast very often whatsoever. We've got Urban Assault kits. Okay, pretty cool. M43A3 Sherman Assault Package. Yeah, we know this one. Rangers, we know cover to cover. That's interesting. Okay, okay. We're going to have to see if that one ever gets used. And the Calliope, which, you know, I would love to see. Of course, Vermac here yet to make their commander choice, but we'll probably be doing so moving forwards. Looks like for the first 5 minutes of the game, actually it's Vermac forces who are after a scoreline advantage. That is nice. I've not been paying much attention to the resource differential, but we'll try and keep an eye on that moving forwards. Looks like it will be Lieutenant Tech here as we move forward in this game, so Hero's going to have access to potentially the AA half-track here, and we've seen the AA half-track be used on this map to decent effect. It is one of the slightly more open maps, I think it's fair to say. If you look at certainly the west half of the map, And that's a good killing field for the American AA half-track, but we'll have to see if that is what he's going to be after. So the rifle grenade launcher has been upgraded. Do they just passively fire that? Is that a thing that they just do now? Crazy. Alright, sorry, there's combat going on. We should probably frame that on the camera rather than watch me try to get to grips with the state of the game. So yeah, it looks like USF going to be trading off here against some Grenadiers and Panzer Grenadiers. Good cover there for the Axis forces though, and they will actually see off the American officer for now. Looks like there's a 50 cal been added into the roster for the American player, and that is going to be pretty useful. Both of these players actually taking the game in a direction that I really like. The Axis player has a Flammenwerfer on those Pioneers and is going to be going for a 2-2-2 combined with the MG42 and the Panzer Grenadiers. We're already seeing at like the 7-minute mark a really nice roster here, lots of diversity, a lot of different tools there at the Axis players' disposal, and that's really cool. The rear Ash actually did die somewhere just now whilst I was looking at the units, so that's a bit of a slip-up for the American player. You don't want to get squad wiped this early in the game, but it does happen. 50 cal here going to cause a triple retreat, so that's some immediate value. That's pretty much going to see the west of the map fall into American hands here. Okay, was that a pineapple off of these? Okay, yeah, so the American grenade package has been reduced in cost as well, so that is actually easier for USF to get. This Grenadier looking like he's actually going to sneak away. That was a close one to a squad wipe there. But yeah, so grenades are a little bit cheaper, so I guess we're going to see more pineapples out of Rifleman. That's not to say that it has actually been researched. Oh, no, pineapples have been researched. Nice. Was that another squad wipe? Oh, goodness me. So a Rifleman squad gets gibbed by the 2-2-2 on the retreat there. That's nice stuff. 2-2-2 is going to sneak away here, just kiting this lieutenant for a little bit and then going to get out of there. Stuart's going to be the choice, and Hero with a lot of work to do here, having lost a couple of squads early on. Never where you want to be. Look at the top left, look at the top right. I mean, it's 41 supply against 26. A bit of an army-size disparity, considerably more than we're used to seeing at this stage in the game. Rangers going to do something to redress that balance. The Stuart here going to be arriving momentarily. And obviously it's easier to recover from losses like this in the early game because your manpower income is considerably higher than it is later on. But this is going to be a rough start to this game for the American forces. So 50 cal here going to get flanked and taken care of. LMG-42 starting to pop up on some of these Grenadiers. That's going to up their DPS nicely. That is some pretty sprightly camo we've got there on the Stuart. Pack 40 is going to get added into the roster to help deal with the Stuart here. And I am actually a little bit surprised, given how good the start has been for Wehrmacht, that the pack gun is this late. I mean, you did see the lieutenant. Oh my god, I'm so confused. Yeah, of course. I was talking about an AA half-track. Dear god. I mean, for years, the lieutenant did signal the AA half-track. Of course he now gives access to the Stuart. They swapped those over. My bad. I do apologise. I'm trying here for an early morning cast. We're casting in the AM, which I don't normally do, but I managed to get through most of my work this morning and just felt like casting. After I read the patch notes, I was just like, damn, this game is cool now. Company of Heroes 2 is just in the best place it has ever been, and that's so exciting. I'm loving it. So yeah, I just couldn't help myself, had to get on the mic. So the Stuart here going to be policing Axis infantry squads, going to be cutting off some of these tendrils of advance that Wehrmacht has been pushing. These Grenadiers here in a pretty bad way. Can keep an eye on their health in the bottom right of the screen. Oh, they fall back. That's good. Kind of got fighting across the entire width of the map right now, so that's pretty interesting stuff. Is that the pack gun? Is this an unsupported pack gun? Oh, yikes. If the American player identifies this, then the Stuart could even pounce, because, yeah, this is just an unsupported pack gun in the open. There are no units anywhere near this pack gun. The Stuart actually just not in a position now where it can get in there in time, but that's a pretty scary moment. Looks like Wehrmacht will get away with the pack gun intact, so that's the most important thing. Nice cutoff here, going to be grabbed here. That is cutting off a fuel, ammunition, and a regular point, so pretty big losses there for the Allied player, who's up to 2 squads of Rangers now. Tommy gun upgrades have finished on 1. This has been a pretty nice start to the game for Vermax, I've got to say. So I suppose we could just take a look at the commanders that Vermax is opting to run with. We've got Defensive Doctrine, Spearhead Doctrine, and Mobile Defensive Doctrine, I believe. Yeah. I feel like if we were gonna see Defensive Doctrine, we may have seen it by now because of the Ostripan option on there. Players tend to go for it early. Having said that, though, if this game does go late, this is a game where a Pack 43 is, like, so huge. It's massively game-changing. Oh, Bundaroo Grenade. Gonna come down. Looks like Hero on his toes is gonna get the fallback in time there. But as I was just saying, yeah, the Pack 43 could be pretty game-changing on this map. And having access to the Stug E, this is just a map where the Stug E, I've seen it flourish many a time. Lots of open area, lots of infantry targets. It's just a nice, fairly cheap assault gun to be able to bring in. GR43 going to be mixed into the roster here for Vermax. I really like that, actually. Recognizing that they actually do have the upper hand a little bit with regards to composition and how the early game has gone. Gives them a little sort of moment here where they can just sneak in the 240 manpower for a mortar squad without sort of giving up momentum or giving up frontline pressure. And that should be really useful. You can smoke out the 50 cal. You can bring fire down on Tommies who are in buildings. So I say, sorry, I mean riflemen who are in buildings, my bad. So what else have we got down here? Yeah, Spearhead is just always good. Again, well, I don't know, we'll see. It's always nice to have options for the Tiger tank, but that thing now comes in considerably later. And it does behave a little differently. Mobile Defensive Doctrine, well, there's been no call for it yet, so I like Vermax keeping their options open for now as far as the commander goes. Yeah, the Tiger has changed. Apparently, it now is a little less effective against infantry. It's had the AoE damage reduced on the gun. But to make up for that, the gun's turret traverse, especially with veterancy, has increased. Now, I'm a little skeptical about this. I think reducing its damage against infantry is fine. But increasing the turret traverse speed is, I think, a little bit risky because the Tiger tank is an amazingly good anti-vehicle unit, but it has a pronounced weakness, which is that it's supposed to feel lumbering and heavy, and it's supposed to feel like it gets flustered if enemy vehicles can get around to its sides and rear. You know, the turret traverse speed adds so much feel and character to the Tiger. So I am worried a little bit that it's just going to feel... It's just going to handle like all other tanks. Once that turret traverse, I think it's upped by like 30% with veterancy at Vet 2, I believe. And I hope that doesn't... I hope that doesn't make it too hard for allied sort of armor to want to try and flank the Tiger profitably. It could get quite oppressive. I mean, turret traverse is actually super powerful in this game. It is one of the more powerful sort of attributes of a tank. Oh, possibility of a squad wipe on this Grenadier. He's going to sneak away. So, yeah, we're going to have to see how that turret traverse sort of feels in the game here. Another Grenadier squad, turbo low. Yeah, he's going to get punished for that. Leaving those fallbacks just a little bit too late there, and finally Hero going to draw some blood here. Lands a smarting blow there. Is that MG42 LMG? So have these guys got two LMG 42s now? That is a brutal squad. Whoa, you got to fall them back there, bro. Get out of there. Wow. Well, at least he manages to stack the LMG-42s onto one of those Grenadier squads. That's quite nice. Rangers here going to be overrunning, and it looks like the Stuart gets the best of the 222 at last. And, yeah, this battle does appear to be turning. You can see the battlefront pushing ever northwards here as American units putting on a ton of pressure. Looks like a mortar tube also being added in for the Americans as well. So both of these armies moving into a pretty nice, diverse place. What happened to the Stuart here? Okay, managed to get out of there without getting bashed by the pack gun, so that's nice. Look how quickly GR43s vet up. They're so consistent. Sorry, 34s. Look how quickly they vet up. They are so consistent at finding damage. Even if they're not, like, getting game-changing hits, they just vet themselves up so that later on in the game they'll just be firing so much faster and more accurately. I do like a simple, cheap mortar squad. I really do. I don't particularly like the light gun or the pack howitzer especially. I just seldom see them justify their extra cost. Rifle grenade coming down here forces a double fallback. That is nicely spotted by Hero as there was a considerable concentration. That rifle grenade would have hurt if it found its mark. Stuart here just continuing to do damage. Oh, it's going to sneak away on a pixel of health. Pack gun finally getting the better of the American light tank. And Wehrmacht here needs to pick themselves up and get back out on the map. They have been fighting on the doorstep of their base now for a minute or so, and that's never a comfortable position. American forces making gains on the map. Has secured double fuel for a little while now, and that's just a worrying place for any Wehrmacht player to be in. This is a nice roster. As you can see, weapon racks have finished, so there's BARs popping up on these riflemen. This is a pretty scary American infantry roster, if I'm honest. This Wehrmacht army starting to feel not only outnumbered but outclassed here. So let's just quickly check the tech. Okay, support armor core is here. So I guess it's going to be Panzer IV, as we haven't seen a fuel choice already. Wouldn't hit a Stug here, but a Panzer IV is also absolutely fine. Major tech is out for the American player, so yeah, I mean we could see Shermans, Jacksons, could see anything. In fact, he's actually even got like quite a lot of fuel here, so I think if he holds on just long enough to see a Panzer IV and then counters with a Jackson, I think I like that world for the American player. But Hero may opt to sort of take the initiative and go for a Sherman. Wow, these Rangers overrunning nicely, forcing back a couple of weapon squads. Panzer Grenadiers here doing their best. Actually, they win the fight here. Oh, the Bundaroo grenade. Yeah, he gets the squad wipe on the Major. Wow. Nicely done. Finding value where he can here is Wehrmacht. Panzer IV is going to be the choice. Rangers on the fallback path here, going to inflict some extra damage on those Panzer Grenadiers, but it's not too bad.
A capture point is under attack. Kill those stupid bastards.
And this is the problem right now for Wehrmacht, just still unable to really find any meaningful purchase on the map. I mean, I suppose... Okay, wow, finds the Stuart there with, I believe that was a telemine, so that is a lovely pickup. But I suppose Wehrmacht is doing the bare minimum, maintaining control of a victory point and a fuel point. So the scoreline differential not out of hand yet, trailing by about 20 points here. And the resource differential not out of hand yet. So yeah, this is kind of okay for Wehrmacht actually, as long as they can break out in the next couple of minutes. And it looks like they are doing so. With the Stuart going down, that will help. There's going to be a window of time here where the Panzer IV is just the kingmaker on the field. The American player really only has a Zook until this Sherman arrives. There's no AT gun or anything. Hell, there's no captain to get an AT gun, so... American tech has changed so much, and I never, ever, ever, ever play as Americans, so let me just check. Yeah, okay, yeah, so the AT gun is still... Whoa, these tooltips requires no key. Yeah, but the AT gun is still locked behind Captain Tech as it should be, that makes sense. Just making sure these things haven't changed. Alright, so the Sherman's going to show up at pretty much exactly the same time as the Panzer IV decides to come in to try and grab the ambulance. The ambulance is grabbed. A couple of Zooks going to connect onto the Panzer IV, but it's not enough to threaten it. Sherman here is going to come in to try and chase. Wants to try and punish here. I imagine the Pack gun will be set up to cover the retreat. No, actually, the Pack gun out in the east of map at the moment. But the Sherman is scouted, and that's really useful information for Wehrmacht. Sherman just gibbing a couple of Panzer Grenadiers there. So let's crack the tack here and see where the battle lines are going to be drawn for the next engagement. Looks like the American player still able to maintain control, crucially, of 2 victory points. Apart from that, a relatively even split. So we'll have to keep an eye on the Wehrmacht players teching here. Are we going to see battle phase 3? Oh yeah, so another big change, I think it's like across all of the heavy tanks, is... now all of the heavy tanks have a 3-minute cooldown from the time that they die before you can call in another. And that's going to massively change the texture and the tempo of late game in Company of Heroes 2. Because previously, if you got up to your IS-2 or your Tiger tank or whatever it was, and that unit survived long enough that you built up a bank for another one, your opponent effectively had to, like, get through 2 of that unit before you were significantly in jeopardy. Because, of course, as soon as you lost your IS-2 or your Tiger or whatever, you just call in the second one. Now, they've introduced it so that, you know, if you lose that Tiger or whatever, there is a defined, dedicated 3-minute window of weakness where you are not able to just call in another one. And I reckon that's gonna... It's just... It opens up, like I say, a well-defined window where players at the top tier of the game who know what they're doing, they know if they bring down your Tiger, they've got 3 minutes to try and push, to try and press the advantage. And I think that's a really healthy thing for the game, to be honest. I think that's actually quite exciting. So, yeah, delaying heavy armor to 12 command points and then making it like much harder to just instantly replace, or impossible even to just instantly replace. I think that's going to be super healthy for the game. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to be like. Anyway, Panzer IV coming in here, trying to get some damage onto the Sherman. We'll push the Sherman back for now. Gets pushed back itself by Zooks. Up to 2 pack guns right now for the Wehrmacht player, which I think is really smart. They're going to be useful as this game moves on. I have to imagine, I mean, it does look like a Calliope would be a quite pretty smart choice for Hero as this game moves forward. So I kind of want to see the Calliope. You have to have picked this commander with a plan in mind. Yeah, we've seen Rangers be useful. And we've seen some utility out of the urban assault equipment. But, okay, we're going to go for another Sherman. All right, fair enough. And it's going to be an Ostwind here. Wow. Okay, I wasn't really expecting either of those fuel spending choices. Help me understand the second Sherman here. It's like, I get that Shermans are good. They're good generalist tanks. I just feel like having 2 Shermans is a weaker position than having 1 Sherman, 1 Jackson, or 1 Sherman, 1 Calliope. That's just me, though. So they've also changed, apparently, all the generalist tanks in the game. Let me rephrase. All the generalist medium tanks in the game. So that's the Panzer IV, Panzer IV LSJ, the T-34s, the Sherman, only the default Sherman, though. And actually not the Cromwell. The Cromwell already had this, but they've all had their size changed, so they're a little bit harder to hit from medium and far range. So that's a new thing in the new patch to help out medium generalist tanks. Although Shermans with the Dozer blade do not have this bonus. So yeah, Panzer IV's slightly harder to hit now. Don't think Ostwinds were changed. Alright, Ostwind gonna come forward here. Lawnmowers a few Rangers, gonna get pushed away by the Bulldozer Sherman. That's quite intimidating. Here comes the Panzer IV, and the 2 pack guns are also tasking over into this area of the map. But the second Sherman is going to be pushing into the west, so could try to flank. I don't really think so, though. 2 pack guns on a Panzer IV is just a lot of AT. I don't think you can really engage into this with the Shermans, not yet anyway. So the other Sherman's just kind of traversing around over here. It's not actually really contributing very much in a sort of combat role. And it looks like Axis forces set out to conquer this area of the map, and that they have. So up to 2 squads of Pioneers as well is also really nice. That's going to help turn around these vehicles very quickly as soon as they actually start repairing. What are they doing? They're glitching out a little bit there, but they get there in the end. Going to repair the Ostwind first. Everyone's just ruthlessly attack grounding here. There are no Americans here, but if they were, they'd be super shredded. Okay, so yeah, the game is basically at parity again. Parity in terms of scoreline, parity in terms of resource income, and that's pretty cool. Looks like we might get to late game here. We're almost certainly going to get to late game. Man, I love where Company of Heroes 2 is at right now. It's just so much better, more interactive, more balanced. There's so many more... It feels like the 2 players are playing a game with each other. It feels like their decisions present interesting choices and sort of options for their opponents to react. And there's a lot of sort of heavy intent and deliberation for both players. And I feel like that you couldn't always say that over the course of Company of Heroes 2 history. So it's actually really just a great and exciting time to be into the game, to be honest. It's awesome. Alright, so the Axis armor gets considerably duffed up right here. Gonna need to repair for a while. Without access to those vehicles, I reckon the American forces will be able to push Wehrmacht back a little bit here. because the strength of the Wehrmacht army really does hinge around these two vehicles right now. Without them, the American infantry combined with the Shermans should just be able to overwhelm this Axis infantry roster, even with the pack guns. In fact, you know what? The two pack guns have also pushed back to base to heal up right now. Where are the Pioneers? Okay, one squad's here and the other squad's falling back, because obviously they desperately need to get repairing those tanks. Battle Phase 3 is completed for our Wehrmacht player, so enables construction of heavy armor core building. I'm just wondering if they will update the tooltips. Here we go. Alright, so it doesn't actually say on the heavy Panzer core, they haven't updated the tooltip to say that it increases capture speed by 25% and reduces reinforced cost on your infantry. So anyway, looks like we've got the defensive doctrine has been picked. Pretty late pick here on the defensive doctrine. Ostripan's now going to be added into the roster to provide, how can I put this nicely, a sort of bubble wrap unit for your actual valuable infantry. Yeah, Ostripan have their uses, but those uses do not bode well for the Ostripan themselves, especially on this kind of battlefield. So he's also going to have access to the Stug E, which I think actually looks pretty good on this battlefield, to be honest. And the Pack 43, which I was saying earlier, this is the kind of map that's quite small, quite open. So the Pack 43 can be quite dominant. I feel like it's going to be more dominant in the west of the map because the lines of sight are just considerably more open over there. Sherman's doing Sherman stuff here, going to be dozer blading on into the side of that building, looking to dislodge the MG42. Where's the Ost here? That's the Ostwind and all this. Okay, the Ostwind yet to commit itself to the line. Panzer IV here in a slightly dubious position. Could get spit roasted here by Shermans, which is never what you want. Pack guns here going to get set up in a lovely position. They're going to put some holes in the side of this Sherman. Going to force the medium back for now. Rifleman here. Whoa, looks like he's not paying attention. So that's a 3-star squad of riflemen with 2 BARs, both of which have dropped. Panzer Grenadiers eager to take advantage of this American hardware. Going to be... Actually, no, I take it back. They are just moving over here. Looks like... I don't know, someone's going to grab these BARs, I really hope, because you don't want the American player to get their hands back on them. There we go. Pioneer's going to be grabbing BARs. That is a nightmare scenario. Ostwind finally gets committed to the line. Going to chunk back these Rangers. And things starting to look a little bit grim for the American player. A 3rd Sherman is going to be the choice here. Say what? I kind of want to cast some OKW games as well. Sorry, my head is still just buzzing with information from this latest patch. But yeah, I was reading the Storm Tiger has been changed quite a lot. Like the grenade launcher on it now is just like when you activate it, it just gets used for 30 seconds. It will just be firing the grenade launcher. So that's pretty exciting and new. Also, the Storm Tiger no longer excludes use of a King Tiger and vice versa. So you can have them both, which is never going to happen, but is an exciting proposition nonetheless. The
enemy is overrunning one of our capture points.
USF in a tough situation right here. 3 Shermans is going to help. But I wonder if he's open to just being countered by... Well, I suppose there's not going to be a Tiger anytime soon, but a Panther would just flourish on this field. No heavy armor core sorry. That is weird that he's teched Battle Phase 3. He's paid the most expensive bit, the 35 fuel, I suppose. But he's not going for the actual building. That is so strange. Yeah, heavy Panzer core, just 100 manpower. No fuel cost associated with that now. Wow, that's pretty cool. But I feel like he should buy that to reduce his reinforced costs. I mean, it would pay for itself in terms of manpower relatively quickly. Wow, look at the American roster. It's been so reduced after those riflemen went down. Okay, so I believe that was a mine, or possibly a Faust, actually. We've got a huge armor engagement here. Triple Sherman going to be diving down the right flank. The Panzer IV utterly stricken, going to try and sneak away. Does he have Panzer attack? No, not on this commander, of course. Blitz gets used, but it might not be enough. The armored skirts providing protection against the hits from these Shermans, so somehow the Panzerfaust actually gets out of there, which seems insane. One of the Shermans does go down. Pat Gun here taking a lovely shot. The Pat Gun will be forfeit, but that's a fine trade. You're okay with that as Wehrmacht. MG42 in a lovely position here, just hammering all of these allied infantry who are getting hung out to dry here. BAR toting Pioneers going to convert for the kill here, and I think this is the last hurrah for Hero. They're just way too invested in this poke, losing so many units and not actually just able to find the critical damage on any of these Axis squads. The 3 Shermans go down, and with that, any hope for Hero in this game. Nicely played game there from Wehrmacht. I was a little bit worried during some portions of the sort of mid and late early game when Wehrmacht was fighting from the doorstep of their base for a while. But this is Angerville. That can happen, and it does happen slightly more often than on other maps, and it's more okay because on Angerville the doorstep of your base is actually like quite a large sort of amount of surface area, so even if you're fighting on the doorstep of your base over here or even in the middle, you can sneak units out still, whereas on a lot of maps if you're fighting on the doorstep of the base then you just cannot access the base, and so it's very bad. And yeah, Wehrmacht's able to navigate this game into a place where they just had a really nice composition and able to take some smooth fights against the US player who also had a pretty nice composition. I have to say I'm pretty skeptical about Shermans 2 and 3. I just don't feel like they added a lot of versatility or additional utility to the army above the initial Sherman. I think that, as I said at the time, I think a Jackson or a Calliope would have impressed me better. But that's just my point of view, and you know, these players are definitely better than I am, so they might know something I don't. I mean, they definitely know things I don't. Alright, cool. Well, you know what? That was only 30 minutes long. I don't really feel like I've scratched my Company of Heroes 2 itch enough, so I'm going to head back into the live game lobby and see if we can find another one here. Alrighty, let's see what we get. Crossing in the Woods. UKF. OKW. I think you're going to have a hard time talking me out of that one. I really want to see what they're up to. Alright, yeah, let's do it. Plus, Crossing in the Woods is just always going to be a map that's dear to my heart. Love this map. Might actually be my favourite map, actually, now that I think about it. It's just so... Ever since the earliest days of Company of Heroes 2, Crossing in the Woods has been a map where the Wehrmacht sniper can flourish. And in the earliest days of Company of Heroes 2, I was a Wehrmacht sniper abuser. He was like pretty much my go-to unit. I would just always be microing that guy. And Crossing in the Woods, just way back in the day, you could do nasty things with the sniper on that map. Anyway, looks like we've got a little bit of downtime at the start of this one. So as I deactivate Fog of War, I'm gonna go and grab a fresh drink. Just bear with me here, guys. It's only 35 seconds, so easier than stitching 2 videos together. I'm just going to let it roll. Be right back. Okie dokie. So let's jump straight into it. Spawning in the south, playing as the OKW pieces, it is the comically named Attack Carrot. And spawning in the north on Crossing in the Woods, playing as the United Kingdom forces, it's going to be GCDC's Speed 277. So yeah, I haven't cast either of these two players. I gotta say I like the idea of Attack Carrot. Like, what the hell is an Attack Carrot? Imagine you had an Attack Carrot just kept on a chain with a spiky collar on your lawn, like... That is just a weird vision. Like, okay, that's my Attack Carrot. Unleash the Attack Carrot. Attack Carrot here is going to be running with the Overwatch Doctrine, which is dear to my heart because Goliaths are lols. The Panzer Elite Doctrine and the Luftwaffe Ground Forces Doctrine. Panzer Elite is just... Sorry, Elite Armored. That's what it's called. My bad. This is just such a cool commander. I love this one. The Command 221 Scout Car is just such a fun unit to micro around and sort of utilize for the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the game. Scales well later on. Pardon me. Scales well later on as well. But just a cool thing for OKW, who just don't have a unit like that usually to have. And Luftwaffe Ground Force, I mean, this is a stalwart, a solid commander who's been in the game just forever and has always been viable, which is nice. Speed 277 going to be running with the Royal Artillery Regiment. So the Sexton and the Valentine, there were some changes to these units, but I can't remember what they were. It's going to be running with Guy in the Middle, who is Commando Regiment. Okay, and that's the Royal Engineer guy. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So 3 relatively boring and uninspiring. Well, I mean, they're not my favourite UKF commanders, let's put it that way, but I'm sure that they've got some stuff. I'm sure that they're going to be able to do something cool in this game, or at least I hope. If we check the UKF base briefly, you can see that we now have the option from this building for the British Medic Squad. So this is a new inclusion as of about a week ago, as far as I understand. This is because Tommies have been substantially rebalanced. So Tommies now not as bad at fighting on the move as they used to be. Their accuracy with Bren guns and stuff like that is actually just more okay on the move than it ever has been. They've also had some of their cover mechanics slightly changed, so they are approximately as hard to hit in cover as most other infantry units, whereas I believe their target size was like a little bigger or something? I don't know, I can't remember if I'm remembering the patch notes quite right. Whoa, Storm Pioneer's turbo low here. These Lee Enfields are thundering in. That's now a squad wipeable target. He loses the Storm Pioneers at the sub 3 minute mark. Oish! That is a horrendous unit to be losing this early. Wow. Okay, he managed to kill some Tommies somewhere though, right? Am I hearing that correctly? I'm pretty sure he killed some Tommies there. So, that is a rough spot to be for both of these teams. At least he managed to kill a Tommy squad. I'm pretty sure he killed a Tommy squad there. So, yeah, wow. What a sort of bloody opening to this game. Crucial losses being inflicted on both sides actually brings the game to some semblance of parity. But the OKW player is going to have to rebuy those expensive Storm Pioneers at some point, because you just can't really function without them moving on. So anyway, yeah, really interesting start there. But as I was saying about Tommy, so yeah, the slightly better firing on the move. Also, the Pyrotechnics package has now had added to it. You not only get the ability to call in some heavy artillery from the UKF base, but you can also call in an off-map smoke barrage. So what this means is that Tommies are going to be much better at dealing with machine guns and other defenses. They're going to be much better in a sort of mobile offensive role. But the game designers, the community balance team, mentioned that with the additional utility being provided by the Pyrotechnics package, and also with the buffs to Tank Hunter Tommies and the buffs to Assault Section Tommies, which I've not mentioned yet, but those units have been basically buffed. They were saying that they anticipate seeing fewer Tommy squads with medics than were initially envisaged when the British faction was being developed. So because there's going to be fewer Tommy squads with medic packs running around, that's why they added the British medic squad. So this is just a thing that you can build now. 180 manpower is going to get you the ability to just heal your dudes. I suppose you could leave them on your base to heal infantry squads as they fall back, or you could move them out on the map if you're feeling really ballsy. I can't really see any players ever doing that, but it might happen. Yeah, that's pretty exciting, I guess. So yeah, the buffs to the Tank Hunter squad and the assault section were that they now always have 5 Tommies. They always just have 5 men, regardless of whether the UKF player is upgraded to 5-man squads or not. And apparently this is just to reflect that the cost, they cost that much to call in. They cost 5 Tommies worth of that's their call-in cost. So I guess we might see players lean on those units a little bit more now, since you can build around them and then not have to worry about buying the 5-man Tommy upgrade, and then you can support them with British medics instead of Tommy squads with medics, with medical kits, I mean. So I don't know, there's some interesting doors being opened here. I'm keen to see that UKF are being changed around, because of all the factions in the game, they seriously needed the most changes. They needed some help. They really did. And I'm really glad that the community balance team, responding to that, have been making some pretty fundamental changes to adding new units and rebalancing core units in the UKF roster. Definitely a sign of a healthy and sort of aware balance team. and I'm really interested to see how the game feels moving forward. So, Fallschirmjägers are on the field, and that of course means that the Luftwaffe ground support doctrine has been chosen. You can hear the FG-42 assault rifles opening up here from these paratroopers. Now, from these Fallschirmjägers. Fallschirmjägers have also had some changes. Apparently, it was just too difficult to... hang on a second, we've got a Bundaroo grenade here. That's not going to achieve anything. Yeah, apparently Fallschirmjägers were just... they're supposed to be somewhat weak to vehicles, and that weakness was being basically masked or sort of eclipsed almost entirely by the fact that they had a Panzerfaust. So Fallschirmjägers now do not have a Panzerfaust. That is quite a considerable nerf for Fallschirmjägers. But I also feel like it gives them a more defined battlefield role. They are less jack of all trade, and they are more sort of dudes who are supposed to be raking infantry down with their FG-42 assault rifles. Probably the most high-tech infantry weapon, or assault, certainly the most, yeah, I mean, just one of the most high-tech infantry weapons seen in World War II. Not produced in very great numbers, of course, but just a very interesting thing to see. I believe it had a side-loading sickle magazine. Am I right on that? Like, the magazine on the FG-42 goes in the side of the gun. Am I remembering that right? On some marks of it, perhaps. Yeah, there you go. You can see it's got a side-loading magazine. By the look of it, that's on the inside. Imagine holding that. Well, I suppose it would have to be, because otherwise the shell casings would eject, like, into you, and that wouldn't be nice. It's just, imagine holding that. You know what? No, I guess you could hold that. Sorry, I'm like miming holding an FG-42 instead of casting. Right, let's get back to this. So it's going to be an AEC build here for the Brits, and I love seeing this. I'm a fan of the Puma. I'm a fan of the AEC for pretty much all the same reasons. I just like microing sort of fairly light armored vehicles that have a relatively potent AT turret. So Kettenwerfer are going to be added in here for attack carrot to help control how effective that is. There are mines here, and I don't believe attack carrot saw them being deployed. Fallschirmjägers would be a lovely thing for those mines to detonate on. That is some pretty high value Axis infantry models there, which could be at risk. Looks like a lot of Tommies here going to be sweeping through. The boys from Wales, Royal Engineers, also present here. So they're going to move in with the Sten guns, and these Fallschirmjägers are going to have to give way here. Bundle grenade going to come down, but that's just more munitions down the pan here. Not the most subtle bundle grenade there, and I don't know, isn't that like 90 munitions he's wasted on really obvious bundle grenades? I think you've got to save your bundle grenades for a time when your opponent is microing on multiple fronts, or a time like when you lob it over a hedge, or just something a little bit less expected. I don't think you can realistically just throw bundle grenades, especially at this early time in the game where you really do need the munitions. I mean, he could have upgraded with another pair of FG-42s for the munitions he spent on pretty obvious bundle grenades, so it may be a harsh criticism. How much are they? Yeah, they're 60. And the bundle grenade is 35, not 45. Okay. So he's wasted 70 munitions on those bundle grenades. I don't know. Perhaps it's an over-harsh criticism, and to some extent, you know, if you don't play for these bundle grenade kills, then you're never going to get them. But also, I feel like you can't just be throwing them out in the only fight that's going on in such an obvious way. Your opponent just has to move like one squad, not even that much, and the bundle grenade is kind of dealt with, so... Let's just say I'm not super impressed with these opening bundle grenades that we've seen. So it looks like Volksgrenadiers, some with STGs, are going to be trading with Tommies here. Lee Enfields, KARs, STGs all blazing away. This ought to be a fight that the Volksgrenadiers will take just based purely on numbers, but Tommies in cover can be a prickly proposition. And they're going to trade out here for a little bit of extra value. The AEC indeed going to come in as well. In fact, they've bought enough time for some of the boys from Wales to come in here. This Tommy section needs to fall back sooner rather than later, you'd hope. He is still in heavy cover, but he's getting close to being one-hittable. Tommy's also going to come in from the rear here. And actually, these Volksgrenadiers are going to have to give way. The Kettenwerfer indeed also being caught out here. The received accuracy multiplier going to make this a soft target. You can see the Volksgrenadier crew falling rapidly under the blistering rate of fire from these Lee Enfields. Wow, okay, wow, he just loses the Kettenwerfer. This is kind of sliding out of control here. There is no reason why Attack Carrot ought to be sustaining as many losses, both in terms of just damage on his squads and infantry models, and also literal squad losses. I mean, the Storm Pioneer's not cheap. Now this Kettenwerfer crew, I mean, again, he keeps the hardware intact, but this is just more avoidable cost that he is incurring. And some nice fights being taken here by Speed as well, it has to be said. Utilising these Tommies to maximise their advantages in these fights. AEC here is just going to police back these Fallschirmjägers. Of course, they cannot threaten it with the Panzerfaust as they used to. Volksgrenadier is going to cycle on in, but the AEC will be fast enough here that it ought not to be threatened by them. And we've got Tommies here, outnumbering now these Volksgrenadiers with the cover bonus that they get. This is going to be a pretty short a fight here, I think. As we wait for this game to get properly heated up. Here comes the next wave of Volksgrenadiers. Kettenwerfer now in position to do something about the AEC, which is going to back into the fight here. It's going to get spotted by these Volksgrenadiers, and that's one's going to have to leave the area for now. These Volksgrenadiers, I imagine, we'll see split up to grab the VP and the fuel. UK forces having advanced nicely. Setting mines here are the Royal Engineers. Actually, a lot of mines popping up. We've already seen... oh, actually, no, sorry, these mines did not find their mark yet. But, yeah, a lot of mines on the field, really exploiting the fact that Speed 277 was able to take out the Storm Pioneers early on. And so far has not seen any other Storm Pioneers. So there can be no metal detector right now for the OKW player. So these mines are a smart choice. Going to be exploiting the opportunity that your opponent has provided here is Speed 277. That's the sound of Bren guns, which are now popping up on these Tommies. Those now more powerful than before whilst firing on the move. Is it just me, or are these Tommies, like, seeming a little bit more muscly than they did before? Like, I mean, Tommies have always been horrifyingly scary, but Volksgrenadiers are a fair fight for them in most regards. And it's safe to say that the Tommies here just taking good fights, making use of the advantages that they have. And... you know, Speed 277 just outclassing Attack Carrot in these exchanges so far. Schwerpanzer HQ does come down for Attack Carrot, so we'll see Panzer Authorization momentarily, and then a choice, I imagine, from that building. Panzer IV, perhaps. Actually, worth pointing out that this was a rare Battle Gripper HQ opening here. We are not used to seeing that. Whoa, sorry. Wow, the scoreline differential has been opening up whilst I've been looking at other things. Oh, wow, the FG-42 shredding into the boys from Wales, and that will be a squad wipe. Nicely done there. A moment of inattention from Speed 277 combined with the insanely high DPS of the Fallschirmjäger unit is going to contribute to, finally, Attack Carrot managing to find a squad wipe against the British player for the first time in a long time. Those Royal Engineers are going to be instantly rebought. They're just too useful. You can't really play without them, especially when you have a vehicle on the field. Axis Boots managed to get onto the fuel over here in East, but he really needs to make a play for these victory points. I mean, this is a huge scoreline differential that is going to make any prospect of a late or mid-game, like, just very difficult. So I think Attack Carrot substantially on the way to being defeated here, and that is a little unfortunate, if I'm honest. I was hoping to see more out of this game, but we'll see. Cromwell going to be on the way right now. So apparently the Cromwell already had the reduced target size, which all generalist medium tanks have just been buffed with. So to increase the power of the Cromwell in order to make sure that its power level relative to the other generalist mediums in the game had not sort of decreased, what they've done is they've buffed its machine guns, so that those machine guns are now on par with the ones on a Panzer IV, is what I heard. Sorry. So more effective than before against infantry will be the Cromwell, and it is still the same target size as before, so it is as difficult to hit as all the other medium tanks in the game, rather than being more difficult relative to them. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the machine guns on this unit. Let's see if we notice them being extra pokey against these Volks. Second Kettenwerfer going to be hitting the field here in time to help with this Cromwell by the time it gets out here, I would have thought. Here it comes. Oh, damn, these Bren Gun Tommies are just hosing Volks Grenadiers. Jesus.
Trying to take a point from us.
Get out of there! Hans, run! Oh my god, is he just going to lose these Volks? Yeah, he's going to lose them. There's just no way, right? Oh my god, he has to get so lucky with these rolls. Did that really just escape? Oh, wow. Hans, that is some good running, man. Whew. But I mean, the noose is truly tightening here. Like, what can Attack Carrot realistically do? You're down on 117 tickets. You're still bleeding. We're less than 20 minutes into this game. Considerably less than 20 minutes in. You know, your opponent has infantry that just seem to beat you, as well as fantastic armoured support. Now, Attack Carrot is stacking fuel for what I have to assume is a Panther. A Jagdpanzer would also not be terrible, but I mean, this has to be a Panther, so... Has an MG34 at least, which is going to prevent these Tommies from overrunning the river for now. I mean, I say that. Are they actually going to get in? Oh, he decides to redeploy the MG. Not sure about that. Well, I suppose he has to in response to the Cromwell that's coming in here. Why is this Kettenwerfer not firing? There we go. Finally starts firing, but immediately is overrun. Meanwhile, in the west of the map, Vickers Gun plus Tommy's just going to dislodge any Axis resistance, and the news goes from bad to worse here from Attack Carrot. He's about to fall below the 100 mark, the 100 scoreline mark. This is so rough. And now, every single OKW unit in the game is pretty much in the base. So, seems like this is a little bit of a mismatch. Schwerpanzer HQ upgrade has just now finished, actually. So, oh no, there's just no fuel. There's no fuel. There's no manpower. We're not going to see a Panzer IV or anything like that. I thought he already had Panzerorth. I didn't realize that it had just finished. So I thought he had Panther fuel, but he did not. And a Panzer IV is just not going to be here on time. So he has to break this lock. The Axis must break out of their base with what they have here. Now, where's the Vickers gun? Because this is some super clustered infantry. It looks like actually the Vickers gun is still over here in the west. Yeah, so... Alright, there's going to be no Vickers gun to control the movement of this infantry, but there are a lot of Bren guns, a lot of Tommies. It's worth pointing out that Piets are now on these Royal Engineers, so there's plenty of anti-tank utility in this UKF roster. The Cromwell just continuing to kite. The Kettenwerfer's just not in position. They move in now, but they're going to fall under the arc of the Bren guns. Okay, finally they start casting shells into the Cromwell. That will force the British armour back. He loses his... What did he just lose? Did he just lose a Tommy squad?
The enemy's taken a proper thrashing. He's down to only 50 points.
But yeah, 50 points remaining. Triple cap established. I just don't see any way that he's going to be able to capture a victory point and decapture at least one more within the time that he has remaining in this game. So I think speed 277, safe to say, out of this game. I might just speed forward through the last bits of this. Because, I mean, he's just never going to... Okay. Alright, he may have time here. He's on 15 tickets under 475. This is going to be incredibly difficult. Alright, so the Fahrstuhl Jaegers are going to be discovered. There they are, and now they open up. Bundle grenade comes down. UKF player. He's going to get punished for this. Yep, loses a Tommy section. But a Gammon bomb comes through, and you'll take that trade. Fahrstuhl Jaegers with the FG-42s, that's fine. The Bren guns get swiped by the Royal Engineers here, and Attack Carrot sees the writing on the wall. Going to leave this game. Call me crazy, but I think I might try and cast one more. My voice is beginning to suffer a little bit, but I just want more Company of Heroes 2 in my life. Right. Let's take a look in the lobby. If there are no games that look good sort of instantaneously, I might bail, but let's have a look. So we've got a 2-minute wait for Attack Carrot and Who Run Bartertown, who's actually playing Soviets. But I'm not super keen to see another game out of Attack Carrot. I mean, that last one looked pretty rough. We've got a game on Feynmanville featuring Sex God and Pax Ajax. Yeah, that one seems like a reasonable one. Let's jump into that one. I don't know, USF though. We've already cast USF. They haven't been one of the most changed factions. We've got a Faymanville game featuring Skeletron and Elpern. Okay, I'm gonna hop in and we'll just check this one out. Alrighty. Oh yeah, they nerfed my boy. They nerfed Soviet Airborne. Yeah, that's a change. Alright. So, playing as the Wehrmacht pieces are spawning in the south on Faymanville approach, it's going to be Elpern. And spawning in the north as the Soviet forces, it's going to be Skeletron. Yeah, so that's right, yeah. Airborne troops tactics. The weapons crate drop, not 45 munitions anymore. Now 60. So 33% increase there. That's rough. But I do think that 60 munitions more accurately reflects the value provided by 6 SVD rifles on your conscripts. It's just, I wish it wasn't true. But I think they're right. 45 munitions was just too cheap. It was a no-brainer. You could call them in, and it even didn't really impact very much of anything about the Soviet build. I mean, yeah, okay, you couldn't put down so many mines, or, you know, it wasn't free, but 45 munitions represented incredibly good value. And when you take into account the fact that you can start calling in those crates at one command point, it was just too many SVDs too fast. So I am inclined. Let's see how it rides. If it looks like Soviet Airborne seems a bit limp now, then you know we can always change it back. But my gut feeling is that was a healthy change. Much as it pains me to say it, because Soviet Airborne is my boy. He's my favorite Soviet commander, and Soviets are pretty much my favorite team at the moment. And that's a heavy nerf. That's gonna have to change how things go to some extent in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game with some Soviet Airborne builds, and that's probably acceptable. I'm prepared to try this out, and I think it's probably a healthy change. I'm just, I say so begrudgingly. So it looks like we've got a special rifle opening here for our Soviet players. Already a slightly special thing to see. We don't often get that one. Clown car now on the field, so that's gonna be some fun there. Conscripts, we've got 2 squads conscripts versus 2 squads grenadiers and an MG42 here. So pretty standard stuff for Faymanville for our Wehrmacht player. Here comes the clown car right now. So Elpern comprehends the clown car-y peril against which they find themselves. And look to see the flamethrower upgrade finishing up fairly pronto on those engineers.
Capturing our supplies. Well done, comrades. The point is ours. Taking fire! Take it. We are ready to go, comrades.
Wehrmacht forces here securing a pretty nifty line across the middle of the map. MG42 getting pushed up front and center. We'll see if he decides to occupy this building to overwatch this area of the map, or if he's going to be more aggressive with the machine gun once this capture is complete. Conscripts coming in here from the north. They are going to find themselves under the arc of that gun. There we go. Managed to sneak back out of range before they get pinned, so that's nice. But Grenadiers here, still going to be quite a good fight. A few of the conscripts down already. Clown car just capping ground in the south, so actually not coming to help swing this fight. I wonder about that decision. It is a munitions point, so you do kind of want to finish capturing that, but like, that represents a significant chunk of the combat might of Skeletron right now, and that is capping, not fighting. Here it comes. Here we go. That ought to force these grenadiers back. No Flammenwerfer. So okay, there we go. The Flammenwerfer, sorry, the Rocks 3, just now starting to come on the way. Whoa, these pioneers. Big. Do flames? Does the flame damage overburn onto the squad that's in a clown car? I have to feel like it doesn't, because Elpern appeared to consciously choose not to garrison and take some flamethrower squads onto that scout car. But I thought it did. So I basically thought that like being in the clown car counts as heavy cover for the guys inside. And units in heavy cover take increased damage from flamethrowers, right? I don't know. I could be wrong about that. That's just always been my understanding, but safe to say my understanding of this game, not the highest resolution at the best of times. So the flamethrower is now finished on those engineers. They're going to be having a merry old time burninating the countryside as they roll around. It's been a pretty good opening though from Alpern. Able to take the scoreline advantage, as I'm increasingly getting used to seeing, to be honest. It used to just be sort of the typical dynamic in, like, I don't know, 8 out of 10 games that the Axis player, especially if they're playing Wehrmacht, would be behind in the scoreline in these early stages. Conscripts just get more numerous units. Sorry, conscripts. Soviets just get more numerous units quicker, usually, and this enables them to just sort of secure early field control. And then, you know, it's on the Axis player to stabilize a little bit later on, but I'm increasingly seeing it's Wehrmacht and OKW players who are taking the early scoreline advantage. That's interesting stuff. Plus, we're going to have to see how that whole, like, stabilizing later on mechanic sort of holds through now that you can't actually access heavy tanks for an additional 3 command points. That represents some considerable delay over the timings we are used to or could have seen heavy tanks enter the field. So, definitely the meta shifting. Panzer Grenadier is going to be added onto the roster here for Alpern, who's diversifying this little core infantry lineup nicely. Looks like vehicle buster grenades going to be coming down from Skeletron here as a safety measure. I mean, you just never know when a 222 is going to pop out, although we know that there is no like the mechanized company yet. Bundle grenade here comes down, but it's actually going to roll and miss. Or I say roll and miss, it's just going to... It's not going to connect with Skeletron. No rolls involved. Skeletron manages to keep his conscripts clear of danger there. Trading quite nicely with the Panzer Grenadiers there. Ooh, dear me. That ought to be a dead squad of conscripts, though. Yikes. That is a harsh pullback. Oh, yeah, he's going to be losing them. Oh, no. Cue sad music. Fade to black and white. So I don't know. I mean, this has been a slightly anemic opening for me, if I'm honest, for Skeletron, who's gone ahead and chosen a commander. Ooh, who's this? Conscript support tactics? Really? Okay, so the KV-1 has actually been buffed, as far as I remember. It's had some maneuverability upgrades, so it's a little bit more sprightly, apparently. So then you also get the Conscript Assault Package, the Conscript Repair Kit, the Rapid Conscription ability, and the Incendiary Artillery Barrage. Okay. I mean, I am open to seeing this commander be good, but I am skeptical. There just seems to be more powerful stuff you can get from some Soviet commanders, in my opinion. But, you know, with PPSHs are popping up right now, so these conscripts are going to be behaving differently than they would otherwise. So let's see if Skeletron can leverage that difference to find some value here on the field against Alpern. And I was skeptical about the opening here from Skeletron because it seemed like we had a clown car, but the timing on the flamethrower was off. And then we had a clown car with a flamethrower, but he seems to have been using it more for capturing ground than policing Axis infantry. And it's just like, well, if you're going to go for a clown car, why aren't we doing it with the optimal timings? Why aren't we getting out there burning troops quickly? And why are we using it to capture ground instead of leveraging the mobility and the DPS of that choice, which are the defining characteristics of the Soviet clown car? So I was skeptical. But Skeletron is still maintaining control over enough of the field, trailing by over 100 tickets though. Like the sub 9 minute mark is rough, especially as Soviets against Wehrmacht. So I don't know, I'm a bit skeptical here about the prospects of Skeletron moving forwards here. The clown car gets duffed, does survive, so that's something. But I mean, there's just not really enough hardiness or muscle in this Soviet roster to deal with what is going to be 3 Grenadiers, 2 Panzer Grenadiers with an MG42 and a flamethrower. Like, how do you approach that with these units? You're going to have to get a little bit lucky with how you find your opponent out on the map, I think, in order to take a meaningful fight. And does this hit the dirt that's being used? No? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're using hit the dirt. Sweet. Okay, that is... We don't often see that one. Yeah, so, okay, that's part of the conscript assault tactics package. Alright, that's interesting. So actually, that was actually pretty meaningful, because it allowed this conscript squad to weather under the arc of an MG42 while still capturing for a bit longer than usual, and now they're still sort of chipping in a little bit of damage here. I mean, so interesting to see Eat the Dirt being used. Or Hit the Dirt, or whatever it's called. But I mean, Skeletron here still yet to wow me. And Elpern continuing to basically have their way with all meaningful exchanges out on the map. Let's check the tech here for the Axis player. Battle Phase 2 just finishing up. So could see Support Armor Core coming down momentarily. Remember, the fuel costs for Wehrmacht teching now front-loaded onto the Battle Phase upgrades entirely, so throwing down the Support Armor Core, a manpower-only affair. And there is manpower in the tank right now for Elpern. And this is a pretty rapid mechanized armor Campanile here from Skeletron, okay, so I do like this. So, I mean, Tank of V Battalion comes down, but it looks like we've opted to skip the T-70, and we're just going for mechanized armor Campanile. Now, the T-34 has, of course, been buffed, as have most other medium generalist tanks. That T-34 is now slightly more durable owing to its slightly smaller target size in the game data, making it harder to hit at medium and long range by your average pack gun or other anti-tank weapon. Conscripts with the assault package here also going to get the upper hand on this MG42, going to force that one back, awkwardly garrisoning the building, probably not the best use of conscripts with PPSHs. How many PPSHs do they get with that package? Is it like 3? Yeah, 3. Okay. Panzerschreck's coming up on some of these Panzer Grenadiers, so that's looks like that's where the hard AT in the Axis roster is going to be located. Clowncar still out on patrol, does catch a Shrek, so pretty wounded. Going to have to fall back to repair. And I'm keen to see what the opening choice out of this mechanized armor Campanile is going to be here for our Soviet player. You have to imagine it's going to be a T-34, because that is the cheapest choice. Am I right on that? It is the cheapest choice, right, in terms of fuel? Okay, it is actually more fuel intensive than a Katusha. Okay, I take it back, but it's like pretty cheap. A Katusha would be pretty sweet, but it's really difficult to justify a Katusha before you've got anything like particularly good to hide it behind. Because if your opponent just gets a Panzer IV, they can just pounce on your Katusha no matter where it is. Oops, conscripts are being lost on the map. Another squad nearly getting taken down here. I don't know, Skeletron in a pretty bad way if you ask me. This army in the top right is super uninspiring. The Wehrmacht position right now is seemingly almost unassailable. Like, right now there is no Soviet answer really for the MG, and like that's a problem. Yeah, you've got a clown car, and if you can get an engagement from the right angle with the correct positioning, yeah, sure, you can deal with that. And indeed, actually, the clown car are going to overrun onto these Panzer Grenadiers, finding some nice damage. That's nice, that's nice. But I just don't trust the ability of this army in the top right to deal with this army in the top left. Now, the early T-34 is going to help out with this, but... And there is still no support armor core from the Wehrmacht player, so... But, I mean, actually, he could go for a Puma, because he's gone for Mobile Defensive Doctrine, and I think a Puma fits into the build beautifully here. You can grab a Puma, skip support armor core, and then later you can have a strong late game with an early heavy Panzer core. And I think that sounds really nice. Ostripin as well coming in to bolster the ranks, and how do you meaningfully take on 2 squads of Ostripin, 3 squads of Grenadiers with veterancy, 2 squads of of Panzer Grenadiers with an MG42 supporting, with like 3 squads of conscripts, and a clown car with a flamethrower, and a T-34. I grant you. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult for Skeletron here, who calls in an incendiary artillery in a pretty meh location. So the T-34 announces itself. Elpern realizes that this is going to be the issue here. The Panzerschreck, Panzer Grenadiers are not immediately able to start firing on this tank, so for now it's going to be able to have its way, but yeah, there we go. This is This is the appropriate response. Just as soon as he sees the T-34, just buy that Puma. And a Puma can police a T-34 like almost indefinitely, especially when you've got some Panzerschrecks to make sure the T-34 can never sort of pounce on top of the Puma, even if the Puma is caught off guard. And I just feel like this position now with this roster with the Puma is just the perfect springboard for a really powerful late game. You can just not build the support armor core. You can just go for Battle Phase 3 when you have the time and the money, which is not going to take long. And, okay, picks up an MG42 here, though. That's a nice kill to have gotten. Unable to secure the hardware? I would love it if he tried, but he's not going to. Maybe that wasn't a safe time to do so, actually. And Soviet forces just going to be forced out of here. Conscripts being forced to be rebought. But, I mean, this is just... 4 squads of conscripts just does not have the muscle to meaningfully deal with this Axis army. You need, like, there just has to be something better out here. If they had SVDs, thanks to Airborne, this would be different. If you had guards, this would be different. If you had weapon teams, if you had a Maxim, if you had you know, a mortar, then yeah, I would believe in the ability of Skeletron to take meaningful fights against this army. But as it is, I mean, he seems to have gone all in for a slightly early T-34. But, I mean, Mobile Defense Doctrine is actually just so well positioned to deal with this particular... If your opponent has, like, made sacrifices to make their advantage having an early T-34, this particular commander just, like, covers that advantage so nicely by allowing you access to the Puma. And it's so cost-effective as well. It's just... I feel like part luck, part skill, but this game really coming together for Elpen. But the scoreline differential not out of hand. Trailing by, you know, 130 odd tickets right now or something. Did I say it? Sorry, I meant 170 odd tickets.
The enemy has cut off a sector. Enemy forces are neutralizing a sector.
Oh, what's happened? Oh, sorry, a little bit of lag there. And now the Wehrmacht forces are pushing pretty hard. Conscript's going to come out of the base. T-34 here in a pretty bad way. It's going to get tagged by a Faust off of these Ostrapen, and that's going to leave it stricken against a Puma that's on great health here. The Shreks are also here, so that'll be a dead T-34. And I kind of think that you can just go and leave the game now if you're Skeletron. Like, you've gone so hard on this line to get an early T-34, and it has not paid off. And your opponent now finds themselves in just a brilliant position. And you have conscripts with, like, I'm going to go ahead and say, like, almost no tech. Like, yeah, I get that they have PPSHs. It's just that I think at this point those PPSHs are basically a handicap. Like, yeah, you can chase Axis infantry, but, like, I just think if these conscripts had rifles, you could take fights in a more meaningful way. But okay, yeah, I mean, he is causing some fallbacks. These conscripts with their BPSHs are punching through in places and causing Axis units to fall back. So Skeletron is not finding no value with this ridiculous army that he has. 34, 33 supply under 62 as well, like, oh. Oh my god. Is the Heavy Panzer Corps, is Battle Phase 3 on the way? Not yet, but... Skeletron also stacking like 900 manpower, I've just noticed. What? Throwing 2 conscripts onto the... Okay. Okay, bro. I honestly think a Katusha right now is like not a bad choice, but... Actually, you know what? No, because the map's just too small. That Puma can just come and poke it down so easily. So now we've got an Ostwind on the way. And you know what Ostwind's counter? Soviet industry. And you know what Skeletron has right now? Soviet industry. Soviet infantry, sorry. I think that this is going to be quite a productive Ostwind. So yeah, support armor core, of course, was thrown down. That's how we got the Ostwind. Just in case you didn't know. That's a rifle grenade. Not actually finding a hit, but it was a sort of guess shot. But Elpern here just kind of outclassing Skeletron. It's going to be a KV1.
We are losing supplies to the enemy.
And I mean, it depends how the first few shots from this Puma go, but if they penetrate the KV1 and the Puma gets to 2 stars of veterancy in the first engagement, I think this KV1 is just going to account for nothing. But we'll see. This is a super brave comp, actually, in a sense, from Elpern, because we're seeing Elpern have the anti-tank resources required to survive in the game as Wehrmacht with no pack guns, and that's rare. So Mobile Defense Doctrine still showing that it's a relevant choice in the meta, because access to that Puma is, to some extent, transformational for Wehrmacht. Just allows you to play the game in ways that you couldn't have before. Anti-vehicle grenade is going to donk the Ostwind for now. These conscripts just scraping away with their lives. We're up to 6 squads of conscripts now.
300 points stand between us and defeat.
But as the announcer says, falling increasingly far behind on the scoreline right now is Skeletron.
We are losing territory. Incoming rounds.
KV1 is going to come out onto the front though. And wow, he just has no fear. That's actually not even going to get Fausted there. So looking to see the maneuverability improvements. Yeah, okay, that is noticeably more sprightly. The acceleration and the speed of turn seemingly okay. Seemingly, yeah. I mean, this thing is rumbling around in ways which I wouldn't have expected a KV1 to before. So that's kind of cool. What does the KV1 have again? Oh, that's right. You can hull it down at Vet 1. Well, I mean, somehow this game is still happening. There was a time when there was like 5 or 6 Soviet infantry units against like just a horrible, horrible array of Axis, like, better infantry, basically. And I thought that the game might end like really soon, but no, we're still here. Skeletron still fighting, trailing by 200 tickets now. About to be under a triple. Oh no, sorry, actually it's he who is capping this point. I don't know, is there... Can you, like, snowball KV-1s from this position? How much does a KV-1 cost? Let me just check briefly. It's been a while. 145. Wow, they are actually not that cheap, but...
Enemy forces are neutralizing a
I don't know, man. I don't know, if you really lean into KV-1s, is the... Whoa! The KV-1 armor looks good when it bounces Panzerschrecks like that. Here comes the Puma, though. Yep, bounces that as well. Did the KV-1 have an armor buff? I can't remember. Alright, finally a couple of Panzerschrecks actually finding their mark for good damage. And the engine... What the? Okay, he gets the Puma. Hang on a second. Signs of life here from Skeletron. Holy... The KV-1 looking just better than I gave it credit for. Might have to look back at the patch notes to see if there have been any changes to this unit beyond its maneuverability, or whether I've just been consistently underestimating it. People have been telling me that it was buffed, actually. Now I think back into games recently that I've cast with KV-1s in, some of the comments have been saying, like, yeah, Magpie, the KV-1's like super usable now. I guess I just didn't really realize that by super usable they meant like the gun actually works in a killing other vehicles sense. So, okay. I, for one, welcome our new KV-1 overlords. I mean, somehow this game is like way more stable than it was 5 minutes ago, because a KV-1 has arrived and like beat in a fight some Panzerschreck-toting Panzer Grenadiers, a Puma and an Ostwind, like at once without going below 2/3 of its health. Just beat them and killed the Puma, and now we're having a Stug added into the roster. Okay. Some slightly more determined anti-tank there. I do think the Stug's a nice choice. Relatively budget as well. Do Wehrmacht players know that getting Battle Phase 3 in the Heavy Panzer Corps like reduces the reinforced cost of their infantry and increases the cap speed? I feel like Wehrmacht players haven't woken up to that yet, because those upgrades, like, That seems like value. That seems like value. So you're basically paying 200 manpower once you include the cost of the heavy panzer corps and 35 fuel for those advantages to be permanently enabled for the rest of the game. Well, the manpower, I mean, you only have to reinforce like maybe 40 models of infantry for that to have paid for itself. And okay, 40 models, that actually sounds like a lot, but it will pay for itself. The earlier you get it, the earlier that's paying for itself. And then you've got the enhanced capping speed as well. So I don't know. I feel like Vermac players should be heading for this building more frequently. Unless I've like misunderstood the patch notes, I'll have another read. But that was my understanding. Once you have the heavy panzer corps building, those passive buffs are on for Vermac's infantry. So it does sound nice. Stug here is going to start trying to put holes into the KV-1, but it's actually the reverse of that occurs. The KV-1 shrugging off the stugging round and inflicting a blow of its own, and we are going to start trying to snowball KV-1s. Okay, right. I think I like this plan, with just a lot of conscripts. Some of whom with rifles and some of whom with PPSHs. And this for me is a much more functional sort of infantry roster, because now you've got the sort of pushy screen of PPSH toting conscripts that your opponent has to respect. I mean, if you do not respect those infantry and they get close to your guys, then you stand to start losing stuff. Oh, speaking of losing stuff, conscript squad gets hosed down there due to basically inattention. Just didn't quite have the APM to get over there and save that one, did Skeletron. Actually loses 2 squads in the blink of an eye there. One of them a vetted up PPSH toting squad. Oh no, don't lose 3. What are we doing here? Skeletron, what are we doing here? What? Oh no. Well, suddenly, I mean, losing 3 of your core infantry squads in about 10 seconds is going to change the dynamic of this game, and suddenly Skeletron just back to being the underdog, just when I thought there was a chance that things were coming together for the Soviet player. Skeletron just... oh no. Skeletron, what are we doing? But it seems like Elpern has found a way to donate an Ostwind. Not entirely sure how this happened. Okay, so some slightly weird exchanges going down, and all of a sudden we've got like a very reduced Soviet infantry roster and an Ostwind that's on fire. I might have to just hand in my caster badge and just say I'm done, because I don't understand the last 5 minutes of this game, to be honest. But okay, so Stug is out here. He's going to use going to try and fall back here. The KV-1 just coming in hard, gets tagged by a Faust, so that ought to be a dead KV-1. You don't have your engine broken this far out into Vermac territory and come back, usually. The other KV-1 coming in for a dive as well. Skeletron, it appears considerably desperate. Loses one KV-1, ought to lose the other one momentarily, you have to feel. It's not been tagged by a Faust yet, but he really wants this Stug. Where's the second Stug coming in from? So the second Stug coming in what will be the rear quarter of this KV-1. The original Stug just kiting like a boss. This is some pro Stuggery that we've got going on here. Pro level Stugging. And gets the armoured skirts on that one. The KV-1 desperately pursuing. As soon as this Stug catches up, the battle is instantly over. Smoke gets used. Haha, nice and attack ground round. Those does come through. The KV-1 is still mobile, but there's going to be an opportunity. Oh, he rolls a miss, but this Stug can still pursue to get the kill. Rear armor should be a nice easy kill. And that is that. I believe now we can conclude the game. Yes, okay. Wow. Bit of a weird one there, if I'm honest. Seemingly a bit of a mismatch. It feels like Skeletron just not really up to Elpern, to be honest. There was a bubble of time there in the mid-game where Skeletron suddenly had 2 KV-1s and 6 squads of conscripts with decent equipment, where I was just like, maybe he can salvage a playable position from this position, but all of a sudden it just fell apart. The cards just fell over, and yeah, it was rough. So yeah, I'm not really going to deconstruct this game, to be honest. I mean, you know, Elpern chose a nice commander to counter the pretty weird and left field build that Skeletron came up with. Kids at home, I don't recommend anything I saw from the Soviet side this game. There's nothing wrong with going special rifle command. There is nothing wrong with clown cars, but I don't think the execution in this example was particularly great. And I feel for Skeletron, you know, we all have these games. Nobody plays a perfect game every time. I, most of all, should know that. And it's easy for me to criticize, you know, being a caster and seeing all these little mistakes up here. But yeah, that game, not the most interactive, not the most back and forth. and the final scoreline there, relatively telling. So yeah, an interesting cluster of games that we caught today. I'm excited about Company of Heroes 2. I'm excited about what they're doing with the balancing. It seems awesome. I want to catch some more games. I want to cast some more OKW. I want to cast some more UKF. So these days I have little better to be doing. Once my work for the day is done, I'm just like, wah, because lockdown times. So keep locked to the channel for more incoming casts. Who knows, I may even do some live streaming again soon. I mean, that was fun. I just ran into a load of issues with my hardware, which I need to tweak out, and I'm so reticent to do that. But I'll get around to it. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. And this for now, Magpie842 signing out.